These matters of mu'amalat we have discussed many times, and you have those who are with us for a long time. You have heard what is the affair regarding mu'amalat. There is no mystery about mu'amalat. It's an old word. It carries on an immensity of wisdom and culture and literature and great shuyukh who have told us everything that we need to know on this matter. There are books written on this subject. There is no book of fiqh that doesn't cover this subject. It has been discussed from many angles and from many perspectives. But it was in this time of failure, of darkness, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala got a man from the West and inspired him to write a book that it has brought us here where we are today. And I was fortunate that in the days when Allah took me by the hair and brought me to the Deen of Islam, I contributed in the second edition of this book, which is Root Islamic Education by Shaykh Dr Abdalqadir. The importance of this book will not be understood until the years come and other events take place. But it's a very important book because he reminded us of something that it had been forgotten. That there is a model of Islam. That history is not a succession of events leading to some millennialist paradise, but that the peak of history is not an event of the future, but that the peak of history is an event of the past. That the greatest society that mankind had and will ever have is the society of Medina at the time of Rasulullah. And therefore, progress to us is to come closer to the model of Medina. And we measure success in our life, and we measure the success in history of different societies in as much as they come closer or they departed from the model of Medina. And that model of Medina, that is the template upon which we speak of mu'amalat. Now this, which appears to be simple, is the very opposite of what I had to hear yesterday. When what it was being told to me is that there is an Islamic central bank, or there will be one, and there is an Islamic constitution, and there is an Islamic state and a ministry, and they even argue that there is a need of an Islamic BAT. Because of course everything follows the other. If you have one little bit of this model, you have to take the whole of it. Now I wasn't surprised because of what they were saying. I was surprised because they insisted on the beginning that this was mu'amalat. And these are people that they are not ignorant of these matters. They have read, they are learned people, and yet they couldn't understand. And this is the second part of this affair. It's not enough to know what is haram and what is halal. You need Haqiqah. And Haqiqah is witnessing. And witnessing is to realize that everything is under the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That whatever you do in the face of Allah, that whatever you do is under His gaze, that whatever you do is a test for you, that you are not here to judge the world, and you are not here to judge the people, but you are here being judged. That you are not the observer of the world, but you are the one being observed. That you are not here to measure the world, but you are here to be measured yourself. It's only when you take this condition that wisdom starts to come. Only when you are the one being tested that you can look into the Sharia and then you can understand. But when you are looking at the world and you are trying to solve problems of the world, you find yourself confused with the world, and you find yourself entangled with the world. And when you find yourself entangled in the world, then everything becomes a mess. Because then you look into the Sharia and what is halal and what is haram, and you don't see it anymore. For what is the things that we are saying? That they are the interpretation of what Shaykh Abdalqadir wrote in Root Islamic Education, which is nothing but a book pointing out that the model of the Muslims, where the Muslims will gain strength, where the Muslims will recover their power lost since we abandoned Islam, because that is the source of our power, submission to him. When we lost the caliphate, the way to restore it is to go back to the Amal of the Ahlal Madinah. That is what this book is about. And he proves through the evidences that this is the case. And it has been the case. It has always been, throughout the history of Islam, the point of return. When the things went out of place, they always went back to Medina. They always went back to Medina. And so it is now our obligation to go back to Medina. And what I did, I took from that book and I continued. And what is the way to continue? And this is the way you have to continue. Because this, I tell you for yourselves, that if you want to know about this matter, you have to take this message and you have to make it yours. You have to make it happen. For judging what other people do in relation to this message, will not help you. Neither will help you to say, I couldn't do it because of this or this or the other. It will not help you. What it will help you is that you take that little bit and you put it to practice. Like you did, Hachawaluddin. And that's why nobody's ahead of you on these matters. Because he took the first dinar and he sold in Malaysia the first chicken. And when I saw that, many people saw, well, I mean, here it is, an eccentric. But not me. And I told you clearly from the beginning, no, this is a wali of Allah. For this is the sign of the people, is that they act upon the things they know. If they know little, they act little. If they know more, they act more. And there is no other way. What is the matter that we are dealing with? I mean, examine it with, look at the discourse that we are bringing forward. We are saying dinar, dirham. And what is dinar? It's a gold coin. You mint it, get gold, make it circles, mint it. You should have heard the explanations that I had to hear yesterday when people were trying to explain to me why paper money is Islamic. It was incredibly complicated. And I forced them to admit that this is the Sharia of the IMF. This is not our Sharia. This is the laws of the IMF. These are the laws of the kuffar. That the source of this doesn't come from us. And when they realize, some of them, they suddenly realize, they put their heads in the hand. And they say, oh my goodness, we did not know. Others didn't. And they still thought that the practical way is the best. You have to be practical. But yet, the way is not practical. The way is a disaster. A complete disaster. And they look into the gold dinar and they say it's not practical. Not all of them. Not after I left. But I know some of them, they still, this is not practical. What is failing here? It's not the intellect. It's the heart. Fear. Fear upon creation before fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For you have heard, and we have heard from the shuyukh before us, who have told us, and we repeat again. And it's your job to repeat that again to the people around you. Taqwa, you want wisdom. Taqwa is the way. Taqwa. But taqwa is not an idea. It's not a philosophy of taqwa. Taqwa is an event. It's something that happens to you. It's tears in your eyes. is prayer at night, is surrender, is being broken. And when these things happen to you, then you understand what it is. And one of our shuyukh said, taqwa is to that your account is negative. That your account may be negative.